everyone, and welcome back to Microtech Knives. What we're doing today is we're going to explore the glass breaking capabilities on the latest generation of Microtech knives. Guys, if you've never broken glass before, it is very difficult to do. There's some things that you need to know, and from a lifetime of law enforcement, I can tell you I've broken everything from tempered glass to tinted tempered glass to laminated glass, and it's not so easy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys on automobile glass that's closed inside of a window, whether you're having to take someone out of a vehicle for, in my case, let's say you had a non-compliant offender, or even taking a baby out of a car that was locked inside. These are real world scenarios that have happened to me over the last 30 years of doing law enforcement. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to break it, or the proper way to break it, and things to look for, because it might not be so easy to break. So for safety, you definitely want to have eye protection on, and I'm also using a set of Ringer's gloves. These are ANSI rated 4, so they have a cut resistance to a blade of somewhere around 2,000 grams or so. So as an example, what I'm going to show you guys is this is a Streamlight SL20 flashlight. This is a patrol flashlight. This has actually broken quite a few glasses out of vehicles, but it's not so easy to do. So to protect myself, I'm actually going to turn my head away, and I'm going to hit the center of the glass right here, and you'll see it is not easy, okay? You can actually hit it pretty hard, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of force, and the more force you use, the chances are your hands are going to go through the window, and you're going to end up cutting yourself on the forearms. Don't ask me how I know. So through years of experience, one of the things you want to do is focus on a corner. That's typically going to be your weakest spot. And so if you do have a knife, and let's say, guys, what we're going to use here is a SOCOM Elite. Now, what we've done is we've removed the glass break off of this SOCOM Elite. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this glass right here to protect myself. Actually, I'll do it here. I'll turn my head away, and I'll strike this multiple times because I'm trying to protect myself. So it just doesn't go. Now, it's putting abrasions on the glass. And you guys will see that it actually deformed this aluminum on the backside, but without that tungsten carbide glass break, it's just going to be difficult to do whether you're trying to get in or out of the vehicle. So we're going to be doing this with 5 knives on 5 different windows at least. What we have is the latest generation, the Hera 2, which has the tungsten carbide glass break on the backside. We also have the Cypher as well. We're also going to be testing the new Combat Troodon with its glass break, as well as the Scarab 2. And because we can, we're going to do the Mini Hera and see if we can break automobile glass with this. So first up is going to be the Hera 2. Now, because of camera angles or whatnot, I'm not going to be able to break it in the location that I would rather prefer to break it in, which would be in this corner right here. Now, for purposes of the camera, I'm going to be going to this location, just like we did with the SOCOM Elite without the glass break. And what you got to remember, guys, is on these out the fronts, you don't want to put your thumb over the top of it like this, because you are covering up a blade. So what you want to do is leave that end open and leave yourself a little bit of room on the back side, because you don't want your hand to go through. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. I'm going to turn my head so you guys can see this, and we're just going to do a pop to it, but let that pop follow through, just like that. So from here, we've broken that tempered glass, which is hardened, and from here you can press this in to either get to the person you need to get to or get that person out. So you guys saw how little pressure I used on that. One of the things you got to think about is, since about 2019 or so, about 33% of all vehicles have a laminated passenger as well as that driver's side windows. So it is an extra level of safety, but it's not going to break like this where you can reach through, because it's going to be just like your laminated automobile glass on the front. So we saw how easy it was with the Hera 2. So what we're going to do next is do it with the Hera Mini. But before we do, we want to set that standard, that baseline. So we're going to go back to that SOCOM Elite without the glass break on it. We're going to hit it in the same spot right in here in the corner. Let me go ahead and do that right now. Matter of fact, I'll put my hand on that, and it's not breaking. So now what we're going to do is take the Hera Mini 2, and I don't want to cover up the end of it. I'm going to turn my head, and there we go. So it takes a couple of little hits, but you got to remember, I'm also holding a very tiny knife here. So that's how you would do it. That's how effective that glass break is. And just remember, we don't have a tent on this. If this had an aftermarket tent on it, it is going to kind of stay together, and that would actually have to be pulled away or raked away out of there. All right, so next up is the Scarab 2. So far, it's been no issue breaking these windows, but this one does have the older style glass break, which protrudes out a little bit more. But what we're gonna do is hit it in the same corner location as we did with the other units, and we'll see if we can break it. Here we go. You guys ready? And that was super simple to do, and this thing just shatters. It's actually a little easier to break it with this because it is a little more pointed, but like I said, I've shown the effectiveness of the other ones, and it is easy to break window glass. So next up is going to be the Cypher 2, and before we break the glass, I do want to mention a couple of things for my law enforcement or firefighters out there, or anyone that might find themselves in the situation. You never want to be hitting towards the top of the glass or the center. That is where you're going to get the most flex. So always try to choose a corner closest to an edge. That is always going to be the weakest spot to break one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit this, and also if there is a baby inside, make sure it's not the same window that you're breaking. Try to get as far as away from that person as possible. So here we go with the Cypher 2. I'm going to turn my head, and that's it. So it takes 3 strikes or so, and like I said, I'm not just doing a wild baseball swing or anything, and you are trying to keep your hand from going into the rest of it. So last up is going to be the Combat Troodon. One of the things about the Combat Troodon, we're going to see if we can find a piece of glass that actually has aftermarket tint to it. And so if we can find that, we're going to see how that's going to break away and how it's not going to push so easily. So let's see if we can do that. All right, guys, so last but not least is going to be one of my favorites, and that's the Combat Troodon. All of these have the new dual fuel drivetrain, and what we've done is we've been able to work it out with the owner of the scrapyard. Charlie has allowed us to find a vehicle that had aftermarket tinted windows. So for those that are first responders, just be aware it's not going to break away so easily. You are going to have to rake this. And then the other point of note is you want to make sure that when you strike, you keep it as perpendicular as possible to the glass face. Okay, so this glass doesn't go straight up, it actually curves away, so I don't want to hit it this way because now I'm glancing at it at an angle. So I want to keep it as perpendicular as possible, so let's go ahead and pop this one next. Here we go. So you guys noticed it took a lot of force. Anytime you add a structure to the backside or you have laminated material, it's going to take more force to break that. But you'll also see that this is still held in place. So this is something that's going to have to be raked to be able to get cleared. You see how I'm just popping these holes in it? It's going to stay together. The other thing that can be done, but remember I have cut resistant gloves, is you'll have to push all that tint material inside of here. So let me make sure my cuffs are good. I don't want to get any of my shirt here, but now we can press it in and it's going to come out as one solid film like this. So guys, that's something to be aware of, and you're not going to do that so easily if it is a laminated glass like you're going to find in some of these premium vehicles now with the sound dampening. What I'm going to do next is let's check this mechanism into this door here, and let's see if we can actually stab it. Not that you need to stab a door, but to see if that mechanism is going to be strong enough to be able to go through steel or go through aluminum and still be able to retract and function properly. So next up is that Combat Troodon. We're going to try to stab it through this steel door here, and here we go. All right, so you guys can see it takes a lot of force to get through the door, but let's see if that mechanism actually works. We have no problems with it. So guys, these are not timid mechanisms. You can actually see where we're poking through. You got to remember, we're not going through a little can here. We're actually trying to go through a car, and it's actually pierced that pretty well. So what we've got is a really cool announcement, so let's talk about what we're doing next. So one of the cool things about all the knives that we use today, these are actually going to be available on the web store, which that's going to be microtechgear.com. These will actually be signed by Tony as well as myself, and they'll be available as a grenade knife. These will be the actual knives that we used in this testing. We hope you guys enjoyed that demonstration of how the glass breakers work, and we hope you learned a little bit of something if you are a first responder or find yourself in one of those situations. Guys, have a great week. Follow us on the channel and our social media. We'll see you on the next one.